And now, the world's most exciting podcast, The Savage Nation. Home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, New York Times best-selling author and National Radio Hall of Fame inductee, Michael Savage.
It is imperative that City Hall send a message that we have zero tolerance for blatant corruption. This is especially infuriating to me as someone who represents a district that has long suffered from filthy streets. Residents in my district have to step out and dodge feces, trash, and needles every single day. This is a terrible, unacceptable public health crisis, and no one should live in those conditions. But time and time again, when we asked Director Nuru to take action to add bathrooms and trash cans and pressure washing, the answer was no.
This is Michael Savage. I live in ground zero for public corruption. As I have told you, there is no newspaper in this city. I have told you the city I live in San Francisco, there is no oversight. There's no two-party system. They have totally corrupted the entire meaning of the political process. Nancy Pelosi is the top of the pyramid along with Dianne Feinstein. And then it goes all the way downhill. Right away, you understand what I'm talking about. You'll put two and two together. How many years have I been telling you that San Francisco is the most corrupt city in the country? Well, what do I mean by that? How do I know that? How? When you see people crapping in the streets and they're not arrested because the police have had their rules. The rules are you can't stop a man from defecating in front of a restaurant window because it's his civil rights to crap in front of a restaurant. If that's not an example of a degenerated, corrupt city, tell me what is. Then you see the homeless bums all over the streets, aggressively panhandling, aggressively attacking people and not being arrested. Then you see the roads are broken. You have an iconic structure like the Golden Gate Bridge, perhaps one of the most iconic symbols in the world. The road's broken as it comes into San Francisco. Where do the hundreds of millions of dollars in road funds go? Highway funds. Who's stealing it? I've asked this for 10 years. Now, I know that we're focusing on a bigger picture today, the Trump impeachment scam, and it's going on and on and on and on, and I'm really not watching it. Others are, and they will comment on it. They have commented on it. They're doing an excellent job. But you know, there may be a connection between what's going on with the impeachment of Donald Trump and why Pelosi decided to pull the trigger after saying she wouldn't. I want you to follow this logic, and I want you to understand it's pure speculation. Do you remember last year Pelosi said she would definitely not pursue impeachment because it would be too divisive, it would rip the nation apart? And then we were told she was pushed by occasional cortex and the far left. I didn't believe that for 1 minute. Pelosi is a force unto herself. So why would Pelosi have decided to pull the trigger on impeachment? Well, I don't really know, but I'm starting to get an inkling about something. Now, what am I referring to? There's a big case that's just come out of San Francisco where the public works director, Mohammed Nuru, and his buddy, a restaurant owner, Nick Bovis, were charged in a federal criminal complaint with wire fraud. Now, you say, well, what does this local story have to do with the federal story of impeachment? Well, first of all, you've got to understand something. This corruption case in San Francisco is a federal case. It was brought by the United States District Court for the Northern District of California by the U.S. Attorney, David Anderson. This U.S. Attorney was appointed by none other than Donald Trump. Are you starting to see how the pieces might be falling in place? On August 16th, 2018, President Trump nominated Anderson to be the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of California. I have to tell you, we've had no U.S. Attorney here. They were always hacks of Barbara Boxer, hacks of Dianne Feinstein, hacks of Nancy Pelosi. They did nothing to stem the tide of corruption in this city and in this state. All of a sudden, we have a district attorney. And remember now, this is not going to be a locally adjudicated case. The communist who was just put in as the DA has nothing to do with this. This is a federal trial that Mohamed Nuru and Bovis are going to be facing. Something's wrong here, but I'll tell you right now, if I were writing the movie script, and I've written 3 best-selling novels, here's how the movie script would go. It's pure fiction. A congresswoman goes after a president. The president tells her to back off, it's all crap. The congresswoman is so drunk on her own power, she won't let go. The president goes after her through an underling. You get the picture now? Because here's what I think could happen if I were writing the novel. This guy Nuru is going to sing. He's going to flip. Because they're going to throw the book at him. I'll read you the case in a few minutes. Because you're not going to believe how big this corruption case is. And you will see that this man is going to go away for 20 or 30 years. And he's an older man. He's 58. Or he's going to do a deal with the United States attorney. And that deal would incorporate blowing the whistle on who else he thinks may be involved. Who was he involved with? Don't you think this money was flowing uphill for the last 20 years? Now, I have no proof of this. I'm only a fiction writer and a talk show host. It's only speculation on my part. But this, remember, is a federal case, not a local one. And it has the potential to bring down the entire house of cards. And this may be why the entire Democrat structure, beginning here in Northern California, is doing everything it can to get Trump out of office right now. This is why they're impeaching him. What Trump has been doing in D.C. is causing waves to crash all over the nation in these corrupt cities. His U.S. attorney, along with his judges, will now be deciding that corruption on this level will no longer be tolerated. Remember, this is an easy case to follow. The U.S. attorney was appointed by Donald Trump just last year or 2 years ago. He's a new one, David Anderson. He's not from the Boxer era, where he was just basically a House attorney. So we'll have to see where this goes. But what is the case? Tell me what the case is. No, I'm going to tell you what the case is. And we may have a surprise guest on the show in the next hour or two, which I cannot mention because we're working on it. This guest goes all the way up to the White House. So what are the crimes allegedly, and I'm saying allegedly because they're innocent until proven guilty, what are the crimes that are alleged that Mohamed Nuru and James Bovis committed? Well, according to the complaint, it has to do with cash and free travel in exchange for the commissioner's assistance to win a bid for the right to run a restaurant in the San Francisco airport. Now, do I have to tell you why everyone wants a store at an airport? Have you seen the prices? Have you seen that a beer costs $10? Have you seen what a bottle of water costs at these nightmarish restaurants at airports? Now you know why. U.S. Attorney Anderson says the complaint describes a web of corruption involving bribery, kickbacks, side deals by one of San Francisco's highest-ranking city employees. They go on. Special Agent in charge Bennett says government employees are entrusted and expected to protect the best interests of the American public with integrity. The FBI will continue to investigate and hold accountable any public official. Now, I'm going to jump cut right here to the actual complaint. I'm going to read it in an outline for you and save you the time. What are the facts establishing probable cause? The FBI was doing this case for quite a while now. They were wiring people. They were following people. Count 1, honest services, wire fraud, aiding and abetting, U.S. Code 18, 1343, 1346-2. That's just legalese. But what are they alleging? Tell me what they're alleging here. Well, if you look at the complaint, which you can study if you're a lawyer or interested in this stuff, on michaelsavage.com, we've linked the actual filing. So, in the broad scheme, here are the statements about corrupt intent. 1, San Francisco airport scheme. But there's more to it than that. 2, multi-million-dollar mixed-use development scheme. That's kickbacks on developments. 3, Transbay Transit Center, another huge boondoggle. Now listen to this. 4, bathroom trailer scheme and homeless container shelter scheme. 5, vacation home scheme. Now let's for a moment talk about the bathroom trailer scheme and homeless container shelter scheme. How many years have I, Michael Savage, told you that there are billions of dollars being made off the homeless crisis, not only in San Francisco, but in every city in America. Every corrupt city in America is cashing in not only on the bum crisis, which they keep it festering in order to keep getting people angry, so more money is thrown at it, more money flows up the hill, get it? It's also related, not in this case, to illegal aliens who account for billions upon billions of dollars a year in funds that flow uphill. Remember, flow uphill. Keywords are flow uphill. So you've got mixed-use development scheme, airport restaurant scheme, Transbay Transit scheme, bathroom trailer scheme, homeless container scheme, and vacation home scheme. What is this about? Why should you care? Why? Because as sure as I'm sitting here, they've got these guys, Mohammed Nuru and Nick James Bovis, in a vice. And they're going to squeeze them in this vice as tightly as they can until one or both of them decides to cooperate with the government. And when one or both of them cooperates with the government, you'll see all hell break loose in this city, in this state, and in this nation. Because as sure as I'm sitting here, what I know about corruption, and I have studied everything going back to the corrupt Tammany Hall days in New York, any small-time commissioner who's corrupt kicks uphill, which kicks uphill. It all flows uphill, not downhill. Now, the reason this show is important today is because the impeachment charade has been going on forever now. It's been going on forever. And remember, I want you to recall, please, Pelosi originally said a year or so ago she would not pursue impeachment in the House because why? Boys and girls of the savage nation, it would rip the nation apart. It's too divisive. And yet all of a sudden, somehow about a year ago, Pelosi pulled the trigger on impeachment. I'm asking a question. Could it be related to the fact that she knew this case was trickling in the background and that they were working in the background? Something was going. Look, this is how politics work. It's called pressure on both sides. And since we don't have an opposition party in San Francisco or in the state of California, it's a one-party corrupt system. And we have no newspapers in the state of California, none whatsoever. They do no investigation of any Democrats. They're just echo chambers of the Democrat machine. Well, we have a U.S. attorney who works for who? President Trump. The U.S. attorney and the FBI have been investigating these characters for a while. These characters are innocent until proven guilty. But if you read the affidavit in support of the criminal complaint, I don't care if you're a Democrat, you'll be as outraged as the San Francisco supervisors are pretending to be. Why are the SF supervisors, who are normally useless and do nothing, suddenly saying we're going to root out all corruption, we can't have any corruption? Why? I'll tell you when I come back on the Savage Nation.